we also know we have the ability to help each other and to help each other move and to build space for each other as well. So picking something that you're excited about, picking something that you're really good at as well, and building a team around you that can support that, like it's never going to be zero stress, but the ability, like the stress is like you're putting on yourself because you want to be better at what you're doing. That to me is a different kind of stress. That's like, how can we become the best version of this? And that's a pretty powerful thing.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mindset Podcast, hosted by Eric Nelson and brought to you by Wild Oak Capital. Eric is a real estate investor, business owner, and performance coach. Throughout this series, Eric explores the mindset behind why certain investors are so successful and how we can learn from their achievements and failures. Eric asks the tough questions around the habits, discipline, mindset, and more required to achieve the most ambitious goals. Thank you for being here and enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Real Estate Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Eric Nelson. Today is a great show. I love what we're going to do here. This is the Wild Oak Capital team. So we're going to have basically a round table and just kind of to chat and discuss and learn from each other, and let you guys get to know us. So it's going to be a totally different style, but I'm pretty jazzed for this. So I think the very first thing we're going to do is just jump right into questions and just have a discussion. So first thing, I'll introduce everybody. I'm just going to go in the order of my screen. So Shane Brooks, John Weaver, and Ben Nelson. Thank you guys all for being here. So first question, and I'm just going to basically call out same story. I'll probably change the order up. I discuss this a lot on my show is what is your why? So, why are you doing what you're doing? And specifically what we're going to do to start is, why are you in the multifamily space? So Shane, we'll start with you. Why multifamily?
Yeah. So I think really multifamily for a couple reasons is one, scalability allows you to kind of grow and scale faster than a lot of your traditional routes or kind of your non-traditional even. But I think the other big reason is just partnership, being able to work with a team, leverage other people's capabilities that are outside your own, and really just develop that overall relationship. So I think that's a huge reason why is to one, kind of scale and grow at a more rapid pace, and then work with people that you enjoy, that have offsetting capabilities of yours, to allow you to just do what you want to do better.
Oh, awesome. Love it. John, what about you? Why multifamily?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate to some of Shane's points again, scalability and building a team. But even beyond that, I used to be a realtor back in Seattle, and I worked with some real estate investors as a realtor, and always planted the seed that I wanted to be involved with real estate in some way, some fashion. And I felt multifamily really complemented some of my skill sets that I could utilize, work with people like yourselves and build a business, right? I've always wanted to build a business. I've been passionate with real estate. So to me, that's really why I gravitated towards multifamily.
All right, Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I come from building teams. And so I'm excited about that as well with Shane, like working together with the team. But I think the thing that's most exciting to me about multifamily and real estate in general is that you do something once and you can continue to get paid for it, right? So we produce events, we go to different locations, we get to do some really amazing things. But when it's done, it's done. It's a sprint. It's over, and you get paid once. I really like the idea of working with the team to develop some systems, develop processes to where we get paid again and again, and we help our investors get paid over and over and over again to make sure that we're building legacies. And I think that's what's really, really interesting and really fun about the idea of this, so that we can build something pretty special and pretty meaningful together and for a long period of time.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to kind of go around and like unpack everyone's answer a little bit. But first I'll kind of start with mine. And I think, again, I can relate with what you guys are saying, but to be very truthful, I fought it hard. I was like, I wanted to go alone. I wanted to we had some single families, some small multis, and I was just way wrong. I was just foolish, because what Shane said is so true, is the team is the key. And now that I'm doing it, now that I'm in it, I don't know why I fought it. Like it was completely like illogical. So I'm so happy that, really a testament to Jens actually kind of pulled me out of that. And I've kind of mentioned his name quite a few times on the show, but just to kind of say, dude, you can go so much farther, so much faster with a good team. So completely concur with everything you guys said. But again, for me, it took like knocking on the head to really get it. But I'm so glad that we all came together. So Shane, a couple of things I took from you was partnership. So completely agree. Love working as a team. And again, like having complementary skills. So Ben or John, you guys have any comments on Shane's thoughts?
Yeah, I think one piece, scalability, right? A lot of people, they get into real estate, they tend out to start with single families, and then they get down the line and realize I'm gonna have to do this quite a few times to get where I want to be, right? So, when you can do, a couple years work in one deal with an apartment deal, I think to me, scalability is a huge piece of the reason why multifamily is so attractive as an operator.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially teams, about our team as well. Yeah. Overlapping skill sets and overlapping things that you're good at also builds you enough space. If you're allowed to work in something that you're naturally good at or you're naturally predisposed, and I think that we're really lucky to have found each other, that we have these overlapping skill sets. Whereas some people are really good at this thing, and we can hand off tasks, we can hand off needs, we can ask questions, and it's comfortable. I think that's to your point. Like, we're doing work that the sum is greater than its parts. Like, we have the ability to build some pretty amazing things much faster than one person can do it.
Yeah, no doubt. And we're seeing it. I mean, seeing it, things are moving quickly, so much quicker than any of us could do alone. So dig it. John, the one thing I took from you was like real estate. So you mentioned you're a realtor and you're like, it planted a seed. But why specifically do you think multifamily? Because you probably saw some people doing like some single family stuff. So what was it about like multifamily that kind of grabbed you, if you can put it into words?
I think just the acceleration of the process, right? Again, the people that I spoke to who were doing single family, they were still working W-2s many, many years later. And I had a vision where, I've always wanted to build a business. I have worked with entrepreneurs in the past. And so, I really want to accelerate quickly. And so the operators that were successful in multifamily, again, the timeline was much, much compressed. And so that's really, I think, what drew me to and wanting to skip the whole single family piece. Full transparency, I've never invested at all in single family and just jumped right into multifamily. So
I know you leapfrog, man. It's awesome. You did what we all should have done. Actually, what most people should do. Shane, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on what John said?
Yeah, no, I think it's huge to kind of have that initial indication jumping straight to multifamily, because Eric, we have similar backstory on our side, and I was the same way. I started single family, realized that I needed to go into multifamily, but I didn't make the same jump that John did straight into the larger side of things. And you kind of look back at it and you learn a lot from that, but the amount that you can gain by just jumping all in and kind of curving that learning curve a little bit is huge. So being able to just plant that seed that going the traditional route or the single family route isn't necessarily the only way to start. You can jump in feet first, just like John stated, and still be successful. So again, it ties back to the team itself, putting people around you that can make you successful, but then also make the partnership successful as well. So again, everything here kind of ties back to each other. So that's one of the reasons I like it too, is that everything kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, no doubt. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same. I mean, it's really interesting to go into this space. I mean, Eric and I have a couple of small multifamily properties, and that was my first foray as well. Besides owning ours, living in Denver, just seeing the market explode. And I wished that I'd held on to some of my first properties when I was living in Denver back in the day, because I think it'd be transformative. But at the same time, having these conversations with Eric a couple of years ago, we started looking around. I'm really glad that we started in that space and that I jumped in that space. I think overall, it's more about getting started than anything else, right? Like taking the first step, whether it's a single family, whether it's a small multi, whether it's a duplex, it just takes doing. And I think that's why I'm so excited to work with you guys, is that I don't think that there's been a day that's gone by that I haven't been just amazed at the volume of conversation and work that goes in a single day. And just the ability to step up and do, like, being around people that are doers is pretty exciting.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think Sometimes I wake up because we're in different time zones. Sometimes I wake up to our our chat channel going crazy. But yeah, absolutely, absolutely agree with what you're saying. And then Ben, the one thing I took from you is the legacy piece. And so I completely agree with what you said. Is the cool thing about real estate in general, but specifically multifamily, I think you can truly build a legacy. You can build wealth that is, I think, difficult to find in other places, whether it be a 401k or, of course, a savings account. You're probably never going to get there, but somewhere like that. But I love the idea of kind of building that generational wealth, so that kind of stuck out to me. I agree. I think it's a get rich slow game. None of us are going to get rich from this even in the next year or longer. But if we keep at it, I think the wealth is really the key that can be kind of transformative long term. So wanted to get your thoughts. John, what are your thoughts about Ben's answer?
Yeah, again, I think this vehicle is so amazing in the sense of you can really go a long ways. And to your point, it is a get rich slow game. And so I think that slaps away some of the wannabes, right? Because again, it's not, investing in Bitcoin one day at 5,000, the next day it's 20,000, right? It's a long, slow game. And so, you need to partner with the right people. And yeah, so again, I'm a huge fan of it. I see a lot of potential and excited to build this thing in the long term.
Me too. Shane,
Yeah.
what about you? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think generational wealth is huge. I mean, for us, obviously, it's a goal to get to, or a lifestyle you want to live, or kind of the why you're doing this overall. It could be family or anything else, but I think long term is that you can build that kind of successful path for future generations to come, and not necessarily just in your family, but if being successful in this space, that relays on to people around you, your inner circles, even your outer circles, and just kind of pushes people to be better overall or more successful in whatever they're trying to do in their path. But I think that's a cool part about especially multifamily, is that it gives you a path and an option to kind of create that general wealth or that desire that is attractive to people around you. So it's just another benefit on that side.
Oh yeah, man, that's really deep, because it is true. I mean, it's kind of like you might actually influence people around you rather than the opposite. And it goes, it's kind of goes back and forth. That's actually a really cool segue. Go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna say, I think that's true, and kind of part of what I talked about legacy. So, it also kind of keys into that what's your why mentality, right? Like, what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? So, and the question is why multifamily, but also why this? And so I have two kids, I have two boys. We talk about how do we help people? How do we do a good job? I think that's something we talk about quite a bit. And we have the ability here to actually transform communities. We have the ability to transform, the place that people live and reside, and we spend a bunch of time. And I think that's something that's really special. And it's not easy. I mean, for everybody out there that's jumping in, just like John said, and then Eric said, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This takes work, it takes dedication, but also if you put the time in and you build a decent team, there's some pretty amazing things that can happen. And I've been really fortunate to be a part of some incredible teams. And I'm honestly most excited to be here because we do have the ability long-term to do some pretty amazing things for our families and for a lot of other families. And I don't know that there's a lot of other places that you could actually say that you're affecting entire swaths of communities with what you're doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's so good. And this is a perfect transition. I mean, you guys teed it up. So we'll get a little bit more into that. I think, the kind of what you described in about the communities itself, but both of you and Shane touched on your why. So I think that's probably a good segue into truly what is your why. I'll actually go last so I can cheat, and we'll go in an opposite order. So John, what's your why? I mean, what drives you? What do you get out of bed for? And then why are you working so hard?
Yeah, to me, I've always had a desire to sort of be the captain of my own ship, if you will, right? I want to have freedom of time, freedom of opportunity. I don't have a family yet, but definitely on the horizon. I would love to, give my children the opportunity to do, whatever it is that they want to do in this life, and any kind of head start that I can give them. I am all for that. And then even beyond that, I've always had a passion for teaching and coaching. And so, to me, another reason I got attracted to real estate and just what I do in general is, I want to help others grow and learn, right? So through this vehicle of real estate, to me, my vision is I want to help others, define what a successful life is to them and help them design that and go about it. So to me, that's really what gets me excited at the start of the day.
Ah, so good. All right, Ben, what about you?
Same. I mean, it has changed. I have two boys, like I said, and the way that so they're a why, but I think more importantly is how I transition what I have, what I know to them. How do I build something to give them, or how do I actually even teach them to be better people? How do I teach, these kids to grow something and to build something that's better than what we found it? And I know that that's a pretty big aspirational deal, but I think why we do this, why we get out of bed is because we have the ability to do something pretty substantial and pretty amazing. And I know I feel like every day that we talk, I discover like another door, and you open that door and there's like a huge open path and an open field for us to go out and make what we're doing. So I'm pretty excited about that, and to be able to hand that off and to teach the boys what we're doing and say, hey, look at how we're doing this, and you don't even have to do it this way, but here's how you can grow something. I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So good. Shane, what about you?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of what John and Ben said as well, but I think it kind of comes down to financial freedom and also stress freedom. I think it's not talked about a lot, but multifamily and real estate in general provides a lot of stress freedom if you kind of become successful, where you don't have to worry about little things going wrong. And if something goes wrong, it doesn't have to be the kind of deterrent in your day. You kind of pick up and brush it off and continue on, and it kind of allows you to just enjoy life a little more. And inside of that too is that I don't have a family yet either, but knowing that in the future you're going to have to make hard decisions, and doing this kind of activity or getting into the multifamily space earlier rather than later, which has always been my philosophy, it prepares me better to make that decision in the future. I don't know exactly what I'm going to have to decide or what I'm going to have to do or anything that's going to come up, but preparing myself now, utilizing real estate as a vehicle is going to make those decisions 10 times easier in the future. So it's kind of a future why, but it's just preparing for what is bound to happen regardless.
Yeah, no, and I think that's honest. I mean, the why kind of almost likely is future, because if you're like, today I want to, I don't know, have more time. It's like, well, you can go to the beach, but it's not going to, can't do it every day. You know what I mean? So super fair to say future why for sure. For me, and I've said this, quite a bit on this podcast, it's time. Like I think money is a tool. I think money can buy time, and it can also be used for good. And so if most people are honest, I think they want more of it, but I want more time really. It was mostly with my kids and my wife. And then I like to travel. So, that's kind of a tangible thing, would just be, I'd have more time, more finances, whatever it might be to travel a little bit more. So those are kind of the things that push me, is just to spend more time. And then the reason I love travel so much is kind of what Ben said, is to teach my kids what the world looks like, what other cultures look like, what other styles are, because you can get kind of stuck in your zone if you never leave your state or never leave the States for that matter. So I have a pretty big passion for that, because it teaches you a lot more than you would ever know. It's pretty exciting. So I'm going to do kind of what I did last time. I'm going to kind of go around and talk about what I took out of there, and we'll each comment. So, John, you said time. So that's the same, I think, kind of with what I said. That resonated with me a lot. And then you also said teaching. And I think that's super true. Even doing what we're doing right now, it's kind of educational. It teaches people that this space is available, and it doesn't have to be that you have to be a syndicator. You can be a passive investor, and that's why you like it so much. If you have extra cash, you can invest it, and it gets your money working for you, essentially giving you a little bit more time as well. So that's what I took away from what John said. Shane, what are your thoughts on what John mentioned?
Yeah, I agree. There's so many different facets of real estate that can benefit in so many ways. And like John mentioned, teaching and just being able to give back, I mean, there's different ways, kind of what we're doing as well, and just providing some of this content to educate others that this is a vehicle that can be utilized, and you don't have to go your traditional investment routes. Some of these alternatives, just like real estate, can provide you those options. So teaching people that option is out there, and then also being able to give back in other ways, either through real estate or through teaching or coaching, content. There's a lot of different facets that can help propel others, for what you're passionate about, but not have any kind of negative deterrence either. So there's just a lot of positives out of it.
Agreed. Ben, what about you? What are your thoughts on what John said?
I think the teaching is interesting, especially kind of what you mentioned, that teaching can come in a lot of different forms. And part of that is courage, right? And so there's a lot of people, like we've met a ton of people, myself very much included. They're average people. By no means am I the smartest guy in the room when I go into every single room. But what it takes is the ability to have a conversation with people and say, hey, just take the first step, do these things. Like actually having the ability to move forward is more important most of the time than being correct every single step of the way. You don't need to know every single thing. You just need to know what's right in front of you. And I mean, I've heard 1,000 people say it 1,000 different ways, but being able to move from the couch to the door just takes a step. And so the ability to, like, for us to have these conversations and to talk to people and put that message out there, is exciting. And that we're seeing people want to come and work with us, and seeing people want to come invest with us. You know, I'm excited about that every day. And you guys push me to be better at it every day.
Yeah. I mean, I think I that resonates with me too, because I have the ability to like want to be right a lot. Ben knows as well. Maybe it's because I'm an engineer, or maybe it's just because I like being right, but it's super true. And I have a confession. In college, in most rooms, I was one of the least intelligent people in the room. I had to work very hard to get through. But what I learned along the way was, oh, you know what, you could actually partner with someone. And this is what is so silly about me fighting partnering. I would study with someone smarter and learn, you know, from them to pass the tests, basically. And that's kind of what this is like. I mean, it's like what you're saying, Ben, is, you know, I think for me, I surrounded myself with 3 gentlemen I think are smarter than me. And that actually makes me the smartest person in the room, because I'm stealing your guys' skills. No, I'm just saying, like, I think that really resonated with me, is that it's okay. It's okay not to be the smartest. It's okay not, you know, to have the best skill in this, because that other person you're partnering with has that skill. And that's what's so cool about this team. So Shane, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, completely agree. And it ties again back to everything, is just having those complementary skill sets, to where you can really perform at your peak for what you're interested in. And you don't have to kind of waste time on things that aren't important to you, or that don't kind of get you going out of the day. So it's a huge thing in the partnering side, is that something that you're passionate about, you can focus on that, but you can still be successful, because your other partners, they may be passionate about other parts of the business. And so when you have 4 people that are passionate about different things, but still have the same common goal, it's very impactful to become successful in almost any realm, because you're doing what you want to do, you enjoy it, and there's not a lot of backlash for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right on. So the one thing, Ben, you said was teaching your kids to be better. That was the one thing that kind of stuck out to me. And I know John and Shane, you guys don't have kids yet, but it does, you know, you could probably use it in your life, is like teaching people, or teaching, you know, the next generation, or maybe colleagues, to be a little bit better. And this multifamily space is so fun and unique because of all these things we've said. So that's what stood out to me about what Ben said. John, I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on Ben's response?
Yeah, to me, I almost group that in with the sense of master of your own destiny, right? Like Ben's kids are seeing him work hard and like, wow, dad's really working hard at this. Look at what he's creating. Look at what he's building. So it teaches, you know, just a level of work ethic that's important, right? Because it's one thing to dream and visualize what is very important to know where you want to drive the bus and what's the destination. However, you also need to put in the work to get there, right? And so again, I think being a great example for those around us is inspiring. It almost has like a ripple out effect, right? If someone sees me living an inspired life, you know, they can take that and share that with people in their circle as well, right? And just kind of ripples out throughout the world. And to me, that's pretty exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. Shane, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, to again go off of what John and Ben said, really, is that it gives you kind of that entrepreneurial vision to relate to your kids or to anyone that's around you, that really drives you to be the most successful you can be, not in terms of maybe just financial, but it pushes you to do what you are passionate about. It gives you kind of that learning expertise to move forward with something that may be outside of the box. And it doesn't have to be just real estate. Real estate's a great vehicle for that, but just those entrepreneurial skills that you can pass on to either your family or the people around you can really push them to be the best that they can be. So I think there's a lot of ways you can look at that. But it just goes down to be able to prep others or your generation to do what their potential actually is.
Yeah, way good, way good. And then the final person was Shane. And you said to me, the one thing that stuck out was stress freedom. So that's super, you're right. I mean, it's not talked about enough, because I think, especially in certain cultures, you can just kind of work yourself honestly to death. I mean, you can work yourself to 70 and then all of a sudden you're like, what have I been doing? And the stress it's real. It has effects on your body. I mean, it affects your relationships and all that stuff. So when you say stress freedom, I mean, that's powerful. So, Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, there's, I don't want to paint the picture because there's definitely stress no matter what we're doing, but working in a place, and it piggybacks kind of what we were talking about this team and why it's so magical to have people around you that can support you and it allows you to work on your highest and best use, is because that stress, for me at least, comes from like, man, that's not what I'm good at, or that is just super annoying to me, or like I'm spending half of my day doing something that's a grind, as opposed to like, now we get to wake up. I'm like, I'm excited. Like when we sit, same thing, we're in different time zones. We wake up and we have like 37 messages from Shane because he's been cranking since 5 a.m. and like, let's do this. Like, it makes me really excited because we also know we have the ability to help each other and to help each other move and to build space for each other as well. So picking something that you're excited about, picking something that you're really good at as well, and building a team around you that can support that, like it's never going to be zero stress, but the ability, like the stress is like you're putting on yourself because you want to be better at what you're doing. That to me is a different kind of stress. That's like, how can we become the best version of this? And that's a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, no doubt. No. John, thoughts there?
I like How to Live a Stress-Free Life as Shane's first book.
Yeah.
Yes, I dig it.
I'll support that.
Show notes. Shane's first book out 2021. Oh gosh, 2020.
You had a lot of work to do in that case.
You better get going like right now. Oh man.
I think to me, I don't know, as Shane was talking about, just stress freedom, right? To me, what really kind of struck home was living an intentional life, right? I feel like stress in a lot of people's lives is living with lack of awareness. Maybe they got drugged into a career they weren't planning to, or a relationship, or just anything in life, right? And creating these micro stresses throughout the day. And to your point, Eric, you wake up 30 years later and you're like, wow, where did my life go, right? And a lot of that is just not having awareness about those daily decisions, those big life decisions about, again, career, relationships, family, all that kind of stuff. So to me, that's really kind of what struck home, is living an intentional life. Again, there's always going to be stress, but if it's the stress by our own choosing, to me, it feels better, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And I think part of that too is like, and one of the reasons why I like multifamily space so much, and just real estate in general, is that it allows you that stress freedom on the financial side. So it's not like the stock market where you kind of let your funds grow until you're 60 and you kind of can finally use them, but it allows you throughout your years that you can utilize those financial gains to create that stress freedom as well. So I always kind of use the examples like, if you get a flat tire, it's not going to ruin your day. You just go buy a new one and go on about your day, go to whatever practice you need to, or whatever you're enjoying. But it's not something you have to spend a lot of time worrying about. Same with like a vacation. If you want to take your kids to Disneyland, you can kind of have that opportunity to do it immediately and not just have to say, well, maybe in a few years we'll save and kind of pinch here and there. And maybe you get that opportunity. It gives you that chance to, yes, let's enjoy these experiences. Let's move on from something bad that happened. It ties to financials, but again, it allows you to not have to stress about those daily decisions. You can move on, and it is what it is.
Well, one thing I'd add to that, Shane, too, is I would completely agree with you, but it's also a facet of kind of what I mentioned in the beginning, is that you trade the ability to trade time for money, or like, is so limiting. So I wouldn't say the ability. So trading time for dollars as an even exchange, it's very finite. You reach an end very, very quickly. Whereas what we're working on now, and we're helping people to grow their money without them having to trade time for money. So even as an active investor or a passive investor, especially, you're growing your dollars while you sleep, quite literally, or while you're on vacation with your family, or while you're going and doing these things that you want to do. And I think that's also incredibly powerful, is that if you're not necessarily having to push every single day, you're not putting in overtime, you're getting paid for the work that you did today in the future, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And I think that that's true. I mean, looking at these deals, we're all going to have our own money in these deals as well. And so you end up landing on the active and passive side. And what's cool is first of all, we get to experience it, but it's absolutely true. I mean, we're going to work to do what's right for our investors. But what's cool is we're our investors too, because we believe in it so much. But it's super true. I mean, you're putting your money to work, and we're solving that problem. We're solving that. Well, what do I do with this cash? Stock market's kind of dicey, or Bitcoin's kind of dicey, or, the bank doesn't do anything.
Squid coin is super dicey.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. But I think what you just said is super true. I mean, it's all a really powerful tool to put your money to work.
Yeah. Well, and something I talked to Shane about the other day too, and is it's also tangible in a sense. So the thing that I really like here is that you can have a direct link to what the work is and the people that are doing the work. So stock market is interesting. And I know a lot of people who are very successful in investing in the stock market, and you have to watch and pay attention to the companies, obviously, and you're investing in these companies to grow. But something as minuscule as a tweet can change a stock price. And that's really something that would worry me in certain cases, right? So we are working on something very tangible. We're upgrading facilities, we're improving people's living situations, and at the same time, we're building wealth for our investors. And it's something that if you call us and we talk to you about what this is, like, we can show you the property. You can drive to that space. Like, you can't drive to go see your stock, right? Like, you can go to a company, but ultimately this is a much more tangible thing. And the ability to actually affect real change for that wealth gain is to me, is pretty incredible.
No, that is so true. I mean, I think this is funny because it rings true today. Elon Musk tweeted over the weekend, as we're talking, about selling $10 billion worth of his stocks, I think. And the prices dropped today significantly. I think they may have come back a little, but the point was exactly what you said. It was one tweet from one person, and your personal money, hard-earned money, could drop significantly in a day. That's scary. Again, I'm not bashing the stock market. There are people out there who do very well. I think it's a good tool in the tool belt, but it can be a little bit more volatile as compared to real estate, in my opinion.
You just can't control it. You're on your own nearly as directly.
Yeah. And I think it's good thing to say too is, we kind of preach this passive investing thing, but it's the team. You really need to research and understand. Of course, the language people use is know, like, and trust your team. And so that was something I wanted to throw in there too. It's not every general partner, not every team is going to do right by you. So you really have to kind of check that out as a passive investor as well. So one final why we'll kind of move to, and this one might actually be the most challenging for me, just to kind of put words to it, not necessarily that it's hard to wrap my head around, but why this team? And so this will be kind of fun because I'm going to go in the order of who I teamed up with. So John and I started traveling to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Gosh, when was that? I don't even want to say how long ago it was. Started traveling out there, and I'd kind of joined you because you've been there a handful of times. So, this team has grown. It is what it is now. I think we have a fantastic team. But why this group? Why Wild Oak? I mean, why what we're doing? John, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I think we hinted on it a couple times before, right? But in any business, there's several verticals that you need to address, right, to be successful machine moving, in the same direction. And so I think, when you and I first started, it was a matter of increasing bandwidth, right? Because there was so much coming at each of us individually where it was almost like a 1 + 1 = 3, right? Where two people working towards the same goal, you get a little bit more momentum than just two people on their own going in the same direction. I found that to be true in my experience. And then as we grew beyond just you and I, again, it was identifying, where do we need help? What are some areas that we're not as skilled at or not as adept at? And again, Shane was a great next addition there, and then so on and so forth with Ben. And so to me, again, just building out a complete skill set for the business is crucial in any sort of team environment.
Yeah, I will save again my comments till the end. But Shane, why this team?
Yeah, and I think to be honest, I wasn't looking to partner up or to team with anyone. It was really, I kind of was at the same kind of story that you had, Eric, was going at it by myself, but scaling on my own. And so I kind of connected really with you at some of the meetups and just listening to your story, and then realizing that this is something that was, one, really interesting to me, but two, again, it had people that complemented some of my skills. It had people that had marketing or kind of the face to get out there, educate and present, and what you do with your podcast here, Eric. And then meeting John and having him on so focused on the broker relation side and all these relationships that both of you had kind of curated over the years. I was able to kind of step in and provide kind of immediate relief to the bottleneck you guys were seeing. But I also saw the same vision that you guys had. I think that ties back to it too, is that we had similar goals. We had the drive. You could kind of see it in what everyone's work ethic was. And so it was something that I felt comfortable in with, okay, if these guys, one, they're going to strive to be better. They're going to make me be better. And they also complement what I want to do or what I can do. So I jumped in to really test those waters, and yeah, it's been a great ride so far. And I think we've got a lot of potential here in the future.
Totally agree. Before I get too deep here, Ben, what about you?
Same. I came on last. I've got to run a lot faster to catch up with you guys. You guys are already full sprint by the time I even got on. But it was just from the initial conversations. Eric and I talk because we're brothers quite a bit, but also because I think you and I, Eric, have shared a similar mentality for a long time. We've bounced things off of each other for a long time. Like, you've always known what I was up to. And really, this team is something that I really enjoyed what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I'm really proud of a lot of the work, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that, again, I want to change and grow, and we want to look toward the future. I want to be around people that inspire. I want to be around people that are willing to put some time in to build something pretty outstanding. So I feel really fortunate. I feel lucky to be, a part of this team, and to be able to bring some things here and to work on, some of the asset management side and building some of the teams and processes side, and to work with you guys and to help support what we all want to grow. So it was a really easy decision. I didn't balk at the why. Just speaking with each of you and knowing how capable, but also how passionate you are about not just what we're doing tomorrow, but it seems like everybody's very clear, like, we're in this for a while and we're in this to build something pretty special. And it's inspiring. And I want to work with people like that. I want to grow this team. I want to bring more people to this, and the more people we can teach and show this road, I want to do that. And I want to do it alongside with you guys.
Yeah. And I guess I'll go. For me, I feel incredibly grateful to know the three of you. I'm like so humbled and excited, to have this group and to have this team. And, some luck is part of it, right? John and I were in a mastermind. And actually, John, I don't even know if I've told you this, but you reached out to our mastermind and said, hey, social media is not really my thing. If anyone wants to chat, like, hit me up on email. And I thought you were old. I thought you were like 65 or something. And I was like, oh, well, I'll give this guy a shot. That was kind of because that was my first mastermind appearance was like, and I saw that email. So then immediately, I think our first Zoom, I was like, oh, this guy's got it. This guy's got the same thinking, same drive, same movement that I have. That's awesome. And so, again, we traveled a little together, same story. Just like, okay, this is great. Now we're seeing deal flow. You and I were both like rock, paper, scissoring to who had to do the underwriting. And even though I think we both did a mediocre job, pretty lucky to find Shane. He just happened, again, it's some luck involved, right? So came to a meetup. I'd heard him talk about some stuff he was doing in town, could tell obviously he knew what he was talking about. And then basically immediately was better at underwriting, like a lot better. And so again, just kind of really lucky to find you. And then it's kind of gelled, like that group gelled. And then there was kind of a need again for like, okay, we need someone to help like all of the back of house stuff, all the stuff that's kind of needed to be built. And we're going to need asset management. As soon as we hit the close button, someone's got to dive in and help make that vision and follow the business plan. And I'm not putting it into a box, but that was kind of the need that he's filled. But again, feel incredibly lucky to have found you guys and be able to put this crew together. So for me, it's not really a why. I mean, the why is there. It's, you guys all said that. It's more of I'm just grateful, and I'll say thanks publicly to all of you, because it's been great. And I think it's going to continue to get better. Rather than kind of dive in and do the question thing on this one, I think we all kind of spoke for ourselves, and I think it's pretty cool to leave it where it is. So we'll jump into some a little bit more fun questions. I'm going to start with like, what are you reading? What are each of you guys reading? What can you recommend? Either book, podcast, what are you up to recently? So Ben, what are you jamming?
I'm a book nerd. I like to read a lot. I challenge myself to read 30 to 40 books a year. I've fallen behind this year a little bit, but I try to go like half and half, do a personal book and a business book. I'll start, the evening with the business book and then finish on something I like to read. Traction is one that I just jumped into and I'm really enjoying it. And I think it has a lot of application to what we're building now. And I read it a while ago and I'm rereading it and I'm getting so much more out of it. And also just was sent through Hunter Thompson's group. They sent us a book, Who Not How, but I'm pretty excited to jump in and gem on that one a little bit as well. There's a bunch of other podcasts. I think Tyler Devereaux is in this space. I think he does he does like a mindset podcast. I think it's pretty interesting and also is incredibly talented in the multifamily space. I can ramble on forever, but I'll drop those ones there for now and we can circle back.
Awesome. Yeah. I think it's interesting that you choose Traction and Who Not How. Those are both kind of business building books and both have like tools to grow. I will say, confessing, I've scanned them. So I'd love to read them with you. Maybe, again, a confession, this group has what we call like a book club, which we jokingly say is like our casserole club. But maybe we'll throw those two on there. John, what about you? What are you listening to or reading right now?
Yeah, I've always been like a mindset psychology nerd. I'm very, curious. Why do people do what they do? At the moment, I'm multitasking in the sense of I'm learning Spanish as well. So I'm reading one of the all-time greats. I love it, Think and Grow Rich, but in Spanish at the moment, again, just to get my Spanish chops down. Principles by Ray Dalio is also one of my all-time top 5 favorite books. Again, talking about just overall business and life philosophy and building systems. I'm a huge fan of that. And Never Eat Alone. Again, I'm a huge fan of that. Keith Ferrazzi, just talking about building a network. You have to, if you want to build success in anything in life, it really comes down to your relationships and your team around you. And so really embracing that, I found that helpful over the years.
Yeah, we had some pizza after a conference in Dallas and we talked about books and stuff. And you mentioned a handful that I was like blown away with your kind of desire to learn like mindset and psychology and stuff. You mentioned some books that were like, wow, those are deep and intense. So, I got to know that side of you a little bit there. So it's cool to kind of hear you continue that. Shane, what about you?
Yeah, so I've honestly never been a big reader. It's never been a passion. I'd always get a few pages in and get sleepy and not want to read again. So I haven't been a big reader until really I had that mind shift change and wanted to really grow in real estate. And then I bought a ton of real estate books and read them all the time. So a lot of ones more geared towards small multifamily and single family, kind of from the Bigger Pockets group. But one of the ones I like too is Traction. So same as Ben said on that end, but I picked Traction up a while ago when I was really starting it on my own and just didn't really dive in or kind of divulge the content of it. But I've recently picked it back up because it's so intuitive to what our business is today and what the need is, that there's so much you can learn from. And then I've really been a big advocate of podcasts. So Bigger Pockets podcast was kind of the first starter and kickstart into all of I'm doing. But recently I've listened to a lot more that's in the space that we're in the syndication world. So Apartment Journey with David Robinson. You've got Whitney Sewell's daily podcast. And then there's quite a few handfuls out there that are more geared towards the syndication space that I'm really focused on now because we're in that realm and we're really trying to dive further into our business as a whole as well. So those are the ones I've picked up on so far.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of like you, Shane. I've never been, it's like I wanted to be a reader, like I wanted to tell people, yeah, I totally read. No, I didn't really. Kind of the similar story is like, and actually, I think part of it is like to actually read the book is kind of painful for me. I'm a little bit more of an audio learner. Like sometimes my wife and I would sit down and read a book. And I look over and she's like page 47 and I'm on page 10. I'm like, this is taking forever. But the audio thing, it just, someone's telling you, and for me, my person can take it in better. So when I say read, it's generally listen. And the same goes for podcasts. I mean, those for me, I get a ton out of it. To add a few more would be like multifamily takeoff. Bigger Pockets is key. I mean, I think, a lot of people just resonate with Brandon Turner, his style, his kind of like, he's a little goofy, but he has like good knowledge and good thinking. And so that podcast is great. And recently he's now in the syndication world too. So it's kind of been fun to watch his journey change. And if you follow him, like that's what he's doing. And he's partnered with some people that I know in this space. And it's cool to kind of see that. So yeah, I'm kind of the same thing. And then Ben said Hunter Thompson, that was the last book that we all read, was Hunter Thompson's Raising Capital for Real Estate. And I love that book. I thought there was so much in there. So that'd be a good nugget. Any other thoughts on books or podcasts before we move on? All right. So with the next one, Ben actually came up with these questions. So I'll give full credit to these because I think they're great, but this one's cool. It's what's kind of a defining moment in your life? And it doesn't have to be around real estate. It could be even when you're a kid or whatever. So I love this question. And Ben, since you came up with it, we'll again start with you. What's a defining moment in your life?
That's tough, man. I think,
you should have been more prepared. You wrote the question.
No, I came up with the questions and I can't answer.
It's all good.
I think that there's a couple. I think that I was working on a job and I was asked to come help with something that was really probably way above my pay grade at the time. And I was like 27, 26 maybe. And we're working on this world record. And I was working with somebody who also probably was in over their head and really had to step up and shine. And had to work hard and had to build some knowledge. And we pulled it off and it worked. And I think that suddenly opened my mind to like, it's not necessarily about what you think you can do, because you can probably most likely 99% of the people in this world are far more capable than they give themselves credit for. So that was for sure defining moment. I think to piggyback what you're just talking about with podcasts is probably when you showed me Bigger Pockets podcast. Eric Nelson for sure was responsible for getting me involved in this. And he's like, hey man, this podcast is the business. Like, give it a listen. I think that this is something where I'm going to take my life. You should probably think about doing the same. So I started listening to Bigger Pockets purely because Eric turned me on to that. So I don't know how many years ago that was, but that for sure made it a definite change for me as well.
Yeah. And before we move on, I mean, I think this is cool because I know the person that gave me that podcast too. It was my old landlord. He owned a couple of rentals in town. And I was like, dude, how did you learn this stuff? And he goes, oh, this podcast, and check it out. And it's hilarious because it really is like, oh, and then you're like, oh, dude, check this out, and it's kind of this chain. And I will say, I mean, I don't think we'll ever be Bigger Pockets podcast, right? But I'm hopeful that this podcast touches at least one person, and maybe that touches one more. So that's really the goal. And it's cool that you mentioned that. And I think, again, that world record, push is something huge. We'll all come back to these a little bit more, but John, what about you? What's a defining moment?
Yeah, tough. For me, what kind of stands out when I was 15, my dad sent me away. I didn't commit any crimes or anything, but my dad sent me away to live with a family in Italy. So I didn't speak Italian. They didn't speak English. And this was for a summer just after my 15th birthday. And to me, it really just sparked a curiosity for life and just traveling the planet, right? There's so many different cultures and different kinds of people, and really helped me develop just to have an open mind, to be understanding of people. So I spent, 90 days over near Venice, Italy, living with the family on holiday. Didn't speak a word of English for that whole 90 days. And yeah, ever since then, I've just had a curiosity to explore and experience different parts of the world. So.
Oh, very cool. Shane, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's not necessarily a defining moment in time that you can realize. I think a lot of it is you look back and you're like, oh, well, that kind of is what sparked maybe this path or progression forward. But yeah, I think similar to me is that getting out of the single family mindset was really, it was February of 2020. I bought the last single family house that I had purchased, and I stumbled on BiggerPockets, and that really gave me the bug to kind of further what I wanted to do or how I wanted to grow. And just everything kind of was starting to fall into place of how this could help me in my future, give us options for whatever we want to do, kind of let you reflect back on like, how are you grown up as well. And I didn't realize like how much my parents gave up for me and my brother to do the things we wanted to do, to make those sacrifices just to buy us the set of basketball shoes we wanted for the season. I didn't know how much of a setback that was to them until I was 10, 15 years down the road. And they kind of tell us these stories of how strapped that they were, the issues they had to go through, or bankruptcy stuff. And so seeing that, I think, played back and said, well, this is a huge avenue that I can help reverse that and not have to do those same mistakes, or not mistakes, but hardships in life, is that you can kind of skip that step with that knowledge, and really do better for yourself, your family, your friends, your inner circle, by getting into this real estate space. So that was kind of a defining thought process, was seeing all that, seeing the sacrifices that other people made, and giving you that drive so you don't have to go through those same hardships.
Oh man, that's deep. There's so much there that's so true. I mean, what's cool is it's you're breaking a generational cycle, and so cool. Thanks for being vulnerable, because yeah, I mean, I think lots of people grow up that way, and their parents had testament to your parents for not showing it. At the time it was just basketball shoes or a glove or whatever it was. And then you look back and you say, oh my gosh, my parents were struggling to do that for me. So super deep. I think a lot of people listening hopefully can resonate with that. You don't have to follow in the footsteps of your parents in a good or bad way. Right. So I love that you kind of took that. You said, hey, I'm going to use this as fuel rather than anger. And I know you, Shane, I know that, you're a type of person that'll help. So if your parents ever need it, you're going to step in as well. And it's actually truly reversing. And it's not like a pompous thing. It's something you want to do, from knowing you. And John, what stuck out for me for what you said was the travel thing. I mean, it's funny that we're talking parents, because your dad's like, see ya at 15 going to Italy. And you might've fought it. You might've like, this is going to suck. But then when you were there, I imagine it was sweet. So, and it gave you the travel bug. I mean, I have a similar story, like not as long, but I got to travel overseas at a pretty young age because Ben was like a senior in high school or something. And my mom took us on this Europe trip, and I got to tag along as like the younger brother, so I was super lucky to be part of that. But it kind of instilled, and I will give my mom credit, instilled in us some travel bug as well. And to tie it kind of back to what we're doing now is, again, this is going to long-term give us some time, freedom, and the ability to do those things we want to do. It can be defining, and just to continue that passion. So super cool. And then what stood out for you was like, I mean, I know what you've been up to. You've been doing world records galore for the last 10 years or longer. But if someone pushed you into it, that can be challenging. And for you just to step up and make it happen is probably super powerful. You're on mute before you say anything, and your computer told us what time it was.
That's why I went back on mute. It's 9 o'clock here. I'm sure you heard some sirens before too. I'm in a hotel in New York, so I'm in like perhaps the loudest place to do a podcast ever. So I'm sorry.
It's all good. That makes it real, man. But I always tease Ben because his computer tells him what time it is. It's like he can't look at his watch. Yeah. So does anyone have any thoughts on what anyone else said? Because I think there was just so much in there. There's so much stuff that you guys shared. So I appreciate you sharing. Or maybe I'll go first and finish mine. Is like, for me, like you guys have a handful of times when I was pushed into something. I was working for a boss, Ben knows him, great dude named Pete. Kind of a similar story where he's like, hey, we got this project in Dallas and you got to go do it. I can't be there. You got to run the team. And I was pretty young at the time. And he's like, dude, you got to do it. Like, there's not really a training to be pushed into like just making this thing happen. It was an event. And we got there, and actually Ben was there. Like, we partnered on that one. I think I was working, like our company was working for your company. Anyway, so we pulled off the event. It was awesome. It was fun. The crowd loved it. It was a Red Bull thing, but it kind of got me thinking like, oh, actually that was hard, but not that hard. And so it's kind of like began this entrepreneurial spirit in me. It was like, I could actually do that. I could actually, do something as a leader or like start a company or whatever. And that's probably what all of you guys have too, because we all have that entrepreneurial spirit for sure. Right on. Thanks again, guys, for being so vulnerable there. I love when people are honest, and open up. And that's, I think, what makes this podcast so real. And the next one's kind of fun. This one's cool. So the final thing is, if you have a dream vacation, what would it be? So we'll start with you, John. You got a dream vacation in mind?
So it's definitely not pina coladas on a beach somewhere for me. No offense if it is, to each their own. To me, I'm super fascinated again, just by culture and differences and when things mix. So to me, Istanbul and Turkey has always been a place on the map I want to visit. It's a mix of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, all kind of mixed into one. And so to me, that's definitely a trip I want to make happen here in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, dig it. Shane, what about you?
Yeah, so I haven't been outside the country too much. Been to Australia and Jamaica, but outside of the North Americas, it's not a lot. So our kind of goal vacation-wise is, not necessarily just the beach atmosphere, but getting to Greece or getting over to Ireland, and kind of some of those other areas that aren't just your beach destinations. So those are the kind of ones we're looking at. Hopefully cross one of those off our list next year. So it's coming down the pipe.
All right. We'll hold you accountable. Ben, dream vacation.
Same. We've been really fortunate and been really blessed to actually get to go see some things. And I've been able to live a couple of different places in the world, which is great. But one place that I've always really wanted to explore and unfortunately didn't get to go, I had a trip lined up for my birthday last year and COVID happened, is I'm very excited to go experience a Japanuary for sure. For those of the uninitiated, Japan in January, it just gets absolutely nuked with snow, and the skiing is incredible, or so I hear. I don't know personally, but the trip around there, but also just the culture, it's really, really interesting to me of how just the depth of history, but also combining that with something that I absolutely love, which is skiing, would be very high on my list. Plus the food, I'm pretty excited to dig into some sushi over as well.
Yeah, I love it. For me, I'll kind of cheat. I have two, I'll say. So you kind of mentioned, I think this came up. Shane, you were talking about like a Disneyland trip. And so it's pretty cheesy, but I actually want to go to Disneyland or Disney World and stay at the resort and just like blow it out. I want to like super spoil my kids and stay at the Disney place and do like the fireworks and all that stuff. I know it's incredibly expensive. I know the prices are ridiculous, but that's kind of why I want to do it, just to say like, no, we stayed there and my kids got to like do the Mickey thing and stay up late or whatever. So that was kind of a dream one for sure. And the other one,
I'll send my kids with you also. You can take my kids there.
I think it'd be fun, man. I think
think it
I'm gonna like dress up and stuff. I'm gonna get into it. And the other one would be like a surf trip. So I don't surf. In fact, I'm terrible at surfing, but I think it'd be kind of fun to go with like a group of guys to like a surf place somewhere like Nicaragua, maybe, where we stay in like kind of a humble place and just surf all day and hang out and, you know, enjoy some seafood or whatever. And so that's on my list. And my wife and I, like, we've surfed a handful of times together. She hates it, like hates it. So that's why she's not included in this one. But it would just be fun, I think, to kind of like do the surf vibe. I've lived in the mountains for a long time, and it'd be kind of fun to do the beach thing. So
I'll go with you.
All right.
You guys want to go surfing with Eric?
You guys want to go?
I'm there.
Yeah, my dad, he lives in Hawaii and been there a few times, and every time we go, we surf almost every day that we can. So not the greatest, but at least I can get up. So I'll join you.
I think I can get up on a longboard a handful of times, and I'll count it a win. All right, let's go, guys. Very cool. Gentlemen, this has been a great show. This has been, for me, fun, like super fun to even get to know some stuff more about you. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. Appreciate it. You can find us all at wildoakcapital.com. Check it out. We all love the space. And again, thanks guys for being who you are. And I'm super grateful for this team.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Estate Mindset Podcast. If you've enjoyed the content today, please follow this show wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to head over to wildoakcapital.com for more information or to connect with Eric directly. Please take a moment to leave a review or tell a friend about what you've listened to today. We hope you'll tune in again soon.